And we are here talking baseball on a Monday because the big dumper is making history, everybody. That's right. We're talking some Mariners. We're talking Cal Raleigh because he cannot be stopped. That's what the opening sentence of the article here says. You can see the headline if you haven't heard. Raleigh's ridiculous run continues with 31st home run, 4th of the series at Wrigley. And yeah, Nika, I'm looking at my calendar here, and it's June 23rd. We are 3 weeks ahead of the All-Star break. We are about at the almost 80 game mark, which is we're not even halfway through the season. Cal Raleigh with 31 home runs, 4 in Chicago this weekend. He took advantage of the Windy City.
Oh, he definitely did. I think he had that marked on his calendar.
He must have. I'm a little bit impressed that the Mariners came into Wrigley and just kind of pushed him around. They put up some runs this weekend, and Cal Raleigh was obviously a big part of that, as we're going to read on here. But I do want to mention that on Saturday, he passed Johnny Bench and became, for the most home runs by a catcher before the All-Star break. And like I said, we got 3 weeks to go before the All-Star break, so we're not even close.
So he's got some more room to improve.
Yeah, and we're talking like 50 years here since Johnny Bench. So it's been a while. The catchers that can hit do exist, but they come around every once in a blue moon, as you're seeing. And Cal Raleigh is our generation's blue moon.
Hopefully he continues to be a hitter, not just this season, but the following, and continues to impress as a catcher and a hitter.
Yeah, he's only been a rookie since 2022. He's not even that far into his career yet, potentially. But the Mariners did lock him up long term, as we know, this offseason. So exciting stuff. Let's get into this article, though.
Sure.
As I said, the first sentence, Chicago, Cal Raleigh cannot be stopped. The Mariners catcher crushed another massive home run in Sunday afternoon's 14-6 win at Wrigley Field, ambushing the first pitch he saw and sending it 414 feet to straightaway center field for a 2-run blast in the top of the first inning, jumping all over the Cubs. His 31st of the season came less than 24 hours after making more home run history and after catching the entirety of a 3-hour, 9-minute marathon in extreme heat, as Raleigh served as Seattle's designated hitter in the finale and was batting left-handed against Cubs righty starter Colin Ray. It's a couple interesting things here. Obviously, Cal Raleigh, they mentioned the toll that catching can take on your body. And it's all the more impressive about what he's been able to do during this stretch. And it's good to see that he's getting some time off and some rest from at least wearing equipment all day in the sweltering heat. We know it's been humid, and we know it's going to be humid this week across a lot of the United States. A day and a time when I'm glad we live in the desert, Nika.
I bet. So am I.
And then the switch hitting nature. I think it's really cool that, you're going to hear some stats in this article, but it's really cool to have a switch hitting catcher.
You don't hear much about
with
switch
power.
hitting.
And yeah.
There are switch hitters as a regular position players, but not the catcher. So it's very interesting. I wonder if he started as a catcher or he just transitioned to catching.
Yeah, I haven't done a deep dive on his history, and maybe we'll do that one day because I think he is a late bloomer, if you will,
Well, you say he's not that old either.
He's not, and I think it's great that Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez might have made him moldable, both from Dan Wilson, a catching standpoint, and Edgar Martinez from a hitting standpoint. He's got two of the best guys he could possibly work with.
That's great.
Here's what Raleigh had to say. Really just trying to barrel the ball up, not trying to miss that pitch. End quote. It's a tough league. We hear this a lot from people like Luis Ariz and others. It is tough. Baseball's hard. You fail more than you succeed. Much has justifiably been made about Raleigh's reaching historic milestones as a primary catcher and that he switch hits. But Raleigh is moving closer to all-time territory regardless of each skill set. The record for most homers before the All-Star break is 39, set by Barry Bonds in 2001. So we now know he needs to hit 8 more home runs in the next 3 weeks to tie Barry Bonds and 9 more to pass him. Raleigh will have 20 games to reach that mark after Sunday. So he's got 20 more games to hit 8 or 9 home runs to tie or break the record. Bonds, of course, set the home run record that season with 73. Raleigh is now on pace for 66. So he's on a pretty nice pace regardless. That's the all-time American League record. We know Judge holds it with 62.
I think he might pass him if he continues.
The previous home run record was 70, set by Mark McGwire in 1998 in that epic back-and-forth season in which he went toe-to-toe with Sammy Sosa, who finished with 66, as both surpassed the previous record of 61 by Roger Maris in 1961. On June 22nd of that 1998 season, the same date as Sunday, McGwire had 33 and Sosa had 30. So, Cal Raleigh actually kind of keeping pace with those two juicers that started it all, Nika, back in the summer of 98. Of course, that was allowed to sort of happen because of the 1994 strike and needing fans to get back into baseball. Major League Baseball itself turned a blind eye to what was happening right before their eyes until it was too late. Of course, I want to point out before we move on that Bonds, Sosa, and McGwire are not in the Hall of Fame and are basically running out of time, if not already.
But there's no accusation when it comes to Cal Riley.
No, there's no accusations like that. That's what makes it all the more impressive.
Yes.
None of those guys were catchers. None of those guys wore the equipment night in, night out.
They have
and
to
the
dress,
toll,
undress. Oh, gosh, yes.
the
That's a
toll
lot.
that takes on your body.
You have to be on your knees constantly, squatting.
Here's some history I can definitely get behind.
Okay.
The Mariners' record for most homers before the Midsummer Classic was set that same year, as Ken Griffey Jr. had 35 by the break. So there is still some more history to chase here for Cal Raleigh, because he definitely can hit 4 more and 5 more in the next 20 games at his current pace, at least. So how about breaking or tying Ken Griffey Jr.'s Mariners record when he was in his prime? That would be something. Quote, "I think a lot of people don't want to pitch to him," said Mariners starter and good friend Logan Gilbert. And then if you do and fall behind, it's a lot of homers, obviously. So it's kind of that he can beat you in a lot of different ways. And it seems like he's doing it in every game, too. Nice words from the pitching teammate there. You know, the battery, as they say. Sunday's homer was Raleigh's 4th of the weekend series, with 2 apiece from the right and left. He's keeping it even, Nika. It was also his 5th in the past 5 games, which extended his MLB lead over second place Aaron Judge, 27, the reigning AL MVP, with whom he's in a heat for this year's honor.
Wow. Impressive.
Definitely. We didn't have this on our bingo card. No one would be shocked or surprised with what Aaron Judge is doing, maybe aside from the batting average jumping off the page at like really higher than normal levels, but not the home run totals. Raleigh now has 21 homers from the left side, which on their own would be among the league's most, as that amount trails only Judge, Ohtani, Eugenio Suarez, and Kyle Schwarber. One of our favorites there, the little Bambino. That's really impressive. He has 10 batting righty. So 21 come from the left. I guess that's his more powerful side. I would also say he probably faces more righties than lefties mathematically. So maybe it's not like a disproportionate number of power. Maybe it's a disproportionate number of righties versus lefties faced. That would be my guess. All right, well, continuing on, Raleigh also reached base 3 more times on Sunday without clearing the fence, ripping a 96.2 mile per hour single in the 5th and walking twice, the second of which loaded the bases in the 8th and positioned rookie Cole Young and Randy Arozarena to break the game open with consecutive knocks that plated 3 more. He knows what's going to happen when he's going well, Mariners manager Dan Wilson said. He took advantage of that first at-bat, got a pitch, drove it out of the ballpark, 31 home runs. He just continues to march through history here. It's fun to watch.
That is definitely the case.
It has been fun. I won't lie. And it's taken the league by storm here.
It does. And then you're just waiting for the next one to hit. Like the way he was hitting at Wrigley, he had like 3 homers in one game, or 2 homers. 2
home runs Saturday and 1 on Friday and 1 on Sunday.
It's crazy. It's Chicago. You know, the winds could be helping or not helping. It depends.
It could be. Yeah, exactly. Well, the end of the article here says, quote, "He's a smart player. So later in the game, not getting too anxious, not trying to go out of the zone, not trying to get away from his identity as a hitter and who he is, just staying right where he needs to stay and getting on base and passing the baton. And the article did go on, and it had a lot more to it, but I kind of wanted to leave it here because the author, Daniel Kramer, is the MLB.com beat reporter for the Seattle Mariners. So go check out his work. And as you can see here, I took this Mariners PR slide and kind of put this as an end cap here to show you just where Cal Raleigh ranks in Mariners history and baseball history, to be honest, because Ken Griffey Jr. is baseball history. He's not just Mariners history. He's one of the greatest center fielders to ever play the game. And especially, I remember those 97 and 98 seasons. I believe he had like back-to-back seasons of 56 home runs apiece.
Wow.
And just, you can see the 35 at the break and 30 at the break. 94, I don't remember. I don't remember all the stats year to year, but there was like 48, 56, 56, and 48. Like consecutive seasons, he hit basically 200 home runs in 4 seasons. That's how you get Hall of Fame credentials in your life. You know, when you can put up those kind of numbers in your prime, it shortens your gap to 500.
Definitely.
And that's why Griffey's over 600 is because he hit 200 in 4 years and was a monster. And we're seeing Cal Raleigh put up numbers like that.
I just hope the Mariners can capitalize on his success.
I agree. That's a great conversation to end with here, is because this is a special season by a catcher at a special position. You know, I can't help but see the fact that Dan Wilson, a catcher, is his now head manager, and Edgar Martinez, a Hall of Fame hitter, because he was a DH, let's be fair, and he got in the Hall of Fame as a DH, which not a lot of guys can do, is his hitting coach. And they're both part of the Seattle Mariners community here. So it's a really nice story. And that's the message. You know, you guys were asleep, in my opinion, on Devers. If they had Devers in this affair now, like,
oh boy,
oh my gosh, and they had the farm system to trade for it. We know that. So
they have pitching. They have really good players around. You know, Julio.
I know they do, but they do need some upgrades at third base. We've talked about it, and
they do.
I just hope there's enough available players at the deadline for them to make a move of some kind and really be a strong contender in all of this. You know, like if Arenado is available, go get him. He would be rejuvenated, I'm sure, on a team like this. I don't know if he's going to be available, though, because the Cardinals are hunting in the wild card right now in the National League.
Well, there's still time.
I know, but there's only, you know,
so
if there's
spots.
3 weeks before the All-Star game, there's only
know.
5 weeks before the trading deadline. And with the way the playoffs work, more teams feel like they're in it. Therefore, less players are going to be available every deadline. I think that's another reason why you see the media pushing for earlier trades to happen.
Well, they're pushing it because they want something to talk about.
Well, that's true too. But
they're not looking at the best for the team. They're just looking at like how many clicks we're gonna get.
And then they get blindsided by reality when Rafael Devers gets traded, because how could that have happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you would have known that if you listened to this show, everybody, the Kanika Sports Show, where we accurately predicted that. So yeah, hopefully there is enough players just to go around this deadline for the Mariners to become good enough to win a title, compete with the Dodgers, because that's probably who they're going to have to go through at this point. And because the Dodgers are winning still without the health of their team. And if they do get healthy, who's going to stop them? So
one team will.
Hopefully.
One team will.
Hopefully it's the big dumper taking a big crap at Dodger Stadium.
Hopefully.
One can dream, everybody. One can dream of Cal Raleigh. All right. Well, good luck to the big dumper on his pursuit of these historic numbers. We're talking Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, two of the greatest left-handed players to ever play the game. And he's right there in the conversation with him. So you heard me, Seattle. Go make your team a contender for Cal Raleigh. And don't waste this season. But let's make him an all-star, too. He needs to start the all-star game.